Welcome to Cajun Case Files. I'm your host, Britt Lovasso. In our last Cajun Case File, we investigated the case of David Mott from Tucson. In that episode, I told you David was found dead around 1 a.m. on Tuesday, July 20th, 2004. He died of blunt force trauma to the back of the head. His body located near his truck on I-10 near Tucson. His truck, keys still in the ignition with no gas. His cell phone and wallet still in the truck. Nothing appeared to be stolen or taken. David was found barefoot, his shoes found in a grassy area nearby. According to David's friend, blood trailed from a railing on the overpass down the side of a grassy hill on the back of his truck tailgate and ultimately to where David's body was found sitting upright, leaning against a guardrail on I-10. A witness spotted two dirty-looking men in a white truck near David's truck around 12:10 a.m., nearly an hour before David and his truck were found. It's been nearly 22 years, and those men have never been identified or located. This week, we're going backwards. We're tracking David's movements before he was found dead.
KLFY uncovers and digs deeper into the untold stories of missing persons, strange disappearances, cold cases, and mysteries from the heart of Acadiana. Beal and Hebert present Cajun Case Files, a KLFY Plus original.
Now, remember from part 1, investigators with the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office were zoning in on the 3-hour period before David was found dead. LPSO asked the public at the time to help them figure out David's last movements and whereabouts between 10 p.m. on Monday, July 19th, and 1 a.m. on Tuesday, July 20th. I spoke with those closest to David to put together a rough timeline of David's last movements. One thing that has always puzzled David's friends and family is a dark-colored vehicle spotted at his house on Monday, July 19th.
He had had a busy day. I think he had done some lawn work. He had done lots of things. He had made some beef jerky, and that's what was laying out. He was letting it cool, so that was his opportunity. I'm going to let my beef jerky cool down. I'm going to go see my friend, spend some time with her, and then come back, pack up my jerky, go to bed, and go to work the next morning.
David's sister Lori says to her knowledge, David was going to a woman's house that Monday evening, but he never showed up.
I believe she lived around Rain. They talked to her, and she said, they had made tentative plans, verbal, so there was no phone records or anything like that, and she just said that he never showed. So
Lori believes because the beef jerky was found on his counter, left out to cool, David had every intention of coming back home that night.
He was coming home. So yeah, he had work. He was a very responsible person. He had work the next morning. He would not have stayed out too late. He was a good guy in that way. He was going to go to work and have a good day and catch up with his friend later, I guess.
We know now he never made it to that friend's home.
There was talk of a dark-colored car being at his house earlier that night. If there was, nobody that we know was there. The two people in his life that owned a dark-colored car was so dear to him, and whoever it is or was has never come forward. That's a missing link.
Lori says there were two people in David's life with a dark-colored car that would match the description. One was a boy named Kevin. Kevin was the son of David's wife, who David was married to for about a year. But Lori says David and Kevin stayed close even after their divorce. The other dark-colored vehicle belonged to Debbie McDaniel. They met in 2001, 3 years before David's murder.
Where we are, we're in Washington, Louisiana. When I met David, they were having the Washington Catfish Festival, and this was all blocked off for the festival, and they had dancing right here. And I met David up here. He was here with his brother Blaine. We had booths set up for the Catfish Festival, and I worked at the bank here. And that's how I met David.
Debbie remembers the memory fondly.
I danced with David, and we talked, and all he knew was that they called me Chihuahua. They made me that in the motorcycle club.
The next day, Debbie says David called the bank she worked at looking for the woman they called Chihuahua. From there, they met for coffee time and time again, growing closer with each interaction.
I was going to invite him over, and I told my kids, and my son said, I don't like him. I said, son, you don't know him. He said, I don't care, I don't like him. But I invited him anyway, and they got close with him because he treated us like real family. And there aren't a lot of people that do that. So it went from there. We started seeing each other and doing things together.
She has this photo, still framed, of a trip she, her kids, and David took to Florida in 2002.
And my kids loved him so much. They were so good to us, and his entire family were so good to us. They called his mama Granny, and his brothers and sisters were Uncle Blaine, Uncle Farley, Aunt Lori, and they still call him that.
While they stayed close for years, talking on the phone, cooking, hunting, going on vacation, Debbie and David remained just that, very close friends.
Decided we were gonna keep seeing each other, but neither one of us were looking for a serious relationship. But I didn't want to see anybody else. I don't know if he did or not. He still did his own thing and I did my thing. But I'll love him forever. I'll never stop missing him.
Debbie remembers clearly her last conversation with David.
I talked to him on Sunday evening, and he wanted a haircut. I went to cosmetology school, and Mondays, I didn't like to do anything on Mondays because Monday's always a busy day for people. So I told him I'd cut his hair Tuesday, and I would bring all my stuff to cut his hair on Tuesday. And he was killed on Monday night.
The fact David left his house so late on a Monday night is still strange to her to this day.
David, he had certain things that he did routinely. If he was going to go somewhere and meet friends, he would come home. He worked for a paint and body shop, John Wayne's Paint and Body Shop. He would come home, take a shower, and go. That night, he came home, he cut grass, he did yard work. Then he went in, I can just see him doing it, and taking a shower, doing whatever he had to do, and sitting down and resting. I don't see him leaving after that. But the neighbors said that they saw a black car at his house. I had a black car, and his stepson Kevin had a black car. And he left.
Now, as for Kevin, David's one stepson who had a dark-colored car at the time, Kevin told me he was cleared pretty quickly. He says he was not there that Monday. Kevin says he even took a polygraph and passed. To this day, that possible dark-colored car parked in David's driveway is a mystery. Was it even really there? Coming up, we learn more about David's plans that Monday afternoon.
Cajun Case Files will be back after this.
Let's go back even further in the day on Monday, July 19th. Before David did lawn work, before he made beef jerky, before David made plans with this woman, possibly from Rain. That morning, David showed up to work at John Wayne's Paint and Body Shop, just like he did every other Monday. Before we get deeper into the story, I want to note that I will not be showing David's home, and that's because it's not there anymore. A different home now sits in that spot, but I will tell you, his house is on this road, Soldier Road, here in Tucson. Like Lori, Debbie, and others, everyone in David's life agree he had a pretty strict schedule.
Especially for a Monday night, coming off of a weekend. We worked really hard, but we both played double hard than what we worked. I mean, you know, coming off a weekend like that, it was his nature or our nature or whatever to, okay, it's time to step back to routine. Depending on what day it was, is his routine, you know, like Mondays he'd cut his grass. Tuesdays might be laundry day or
We know from Lori, David did get home and cut his grass that Monday afternoon. John Wayne says also that Monday, David showed up to work at the body and paint shop just like every other Monday.
we worked that day. And my youngest son had driven his truck up to the front of the house for him to leave. And, I thanked him for working that day. I don't know why I did that, but I did. I remember telling him that was the last thing I ever said to him.
John Wayne says David worked Monday through Friday. They probably worked from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. that Monday. John Wayne says that day after work, John Wayne's son, Ashton, did have plans to go to David's house and spend the night.
Ashton at the time was probably 12 or so, and he loved to spend time with Dave, and Dave would love to bring him. They would, do guys things. It was a buddy program, should I say, And I don't know what had happened, but Ashton had prior plans, and it didn't happen. He didn't get to go sleep at Dave's house.
And John Wayne says David would have never put Ashton in any kind of danger. He believes something out of David's routine drew him out of his house that night. Something that may have prompted David to leave his home quickly. For one, Lori says that beef jerky was laying out to cool, and John Wayne says he remembers seeing a plate of food on his table. That was out of the norm for David.
Dave was one he picked up after himself. He'd wash his plate. I remember fussing at him. He'd save the food. He was always there to help. Whatever needed to be done, that's what he would do. And for the plate of food to be left or an empty plate on his table, something happened that caused that. He was just that routine type of guy in my book. That was my first clue. It's like, oh, hold on. This is not right.
The Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office believes David's murder happened sometime between 10 p.m. Monday night and 1 a.m. Tuesday night, that 3-hour window. John Wayne says that would have been an unusual time for David to be out of his house. He had work the next morning at 7:30, and David loved his job. He was reliable.
This is something that just fell into his lap. And we were close. We were like brothers. Good and bad. As far as he would contact me, he would call me. I'd call him. Hey, what, And I just found it strange that his phone was in his truck, his wallet was in his truck. We had just repaired the truck. I painted the truck.
One thing that's so interesting about this case is how close to home David was when he was killed. I'm standing on Soldier Road. That is where David lived. If I look to my left, I can see the property where David's home was. Now, this road behind me, South Richter, about a mile down that way, that is where David was killed on I-10. I actually just took a drive there myself from David's home right here, all the way down to where he was killed. It only took me a minute and a half to get there.
Why he didn't try to call somebody or what happened,
You would have been one of the first people he would have called if he was in trouble.
Like I said, he's called me both good and bad before, I don't know. He was a nice guy, man. He liked to help people. He liked life.
After the break, we talk with one of the neighbors who spotted that dark-colored vehicle at David's home that night, and another person who was questioned by authorities.
Cajun Case Files will be back after this.
According to Lori, a couple of different neighbors spotted that dark-colored vehicle at David's house that Monday evening. One was the wife of David's cousin. Here's what she remembers. From your home, you could see David's home pretty well.
Yes, out of California, if I was in the yard, I could.
Living so close, Liz Mott and her husband, David's cousin, Donnie Mott, knew David's routine well. Liz says David never left his home past 9 o'clock at night.
Unless it was something very important or somebody made him leave, he would have never left at that time of the night. Okay? David's routine was he was home at a certain time during the week, and that's when he was home. So if he left that night, he did not leave on his free will, or he left because somebody said they needed him there.
The only place she knows David would usually go on a Monday evening is a bar called Butch's for steak night.
Almost every Monday night.
Okay.
Almost every Monday night.
But Liz says that Monday evening, David was home and appeared to have company. On her way home, she passed David's house.
And I did look that night. And normally, on a regular night, had I not seen people there, because I was always scared to stay by myself. I was never confident, being by myself, because Donnie worked offshore and he was not home. Okay? So a lot of times I would just call David and say, hey, I'm on my way home. Can you come make sure that everything's okay when I get home? Well, when I passed by his house that night, I saw there was vehicles there. And so when I passed, I never did call him.
Liz says she saw David's truck and a dark-colored car. She remembers David telling her in the days before he was planning on having a couple over for dinner. She says that's who she thought this was at first.
So that night when I passed and I saw the cars, I just thought, well, I remembered him telling me that, and he was cooking for him that night. So when I passed and I saw the cars, it didn't mean anything to me. I just knew that he had told me that's what he was doing.
I tracked down this couple, Angela and her husband. According to Angela's brother, the couple did not have dinner with David that night. He remembers because Angela was with their mom all night. Angela's brother, Bobby Angel, says investigators did question Angela because she had a black car, but she was cleared. Bobby was also questioned. A fellow body repairman, he'd been close friends with David since the 1980s. Bobby remembers something interesting about when he was questioned by investigators just days after David's murder.
My sister called me, I don't remember how many days or not after, saying that the police had questioned her about David and that they were going to contact me. And sure enough, a day or two later, the sheriff's department called me and wanted to know if I was friends with David, if I had a ponytail, because something about a video of a guy coming out of the bar room had a ponytail, and they wanted to know if I was there that night with David hanging out. And I told them no.
Bobby says there is a club near Tucson that held about 300 people. He believes that's where this alleged video of David walking out with a man with a ponytail was taken. He never heard anything else about it.
I did go to David's funeral, and it did not look like David. According to the Bible, Jesus was beat so bad you couldn't recognize his face. And this is how bad it was. Excuse me. Yeah, whoever started, they didn't know when to stop. I don't see how somebody could get so mad at a human being.
From Bobby's words, it sounds like this was a brutal, violent attack. An attack that seemed targeted and deeply personal. But he nor anyone else could think of anyone so angry at David, they would want him dead. Coming up, you'll hear from someone you have not met yet.
Cajun Case Files will be back after this.
I asked David's family if they had access to David's cell phone records from 2004. They did not have them anymore. But Lori says to her knowledge and memory, there were no suspicious calls that Monday evening or the days before. 10 years after David's murder, detectives invited David's family to view their records. David's older brother, Farley, saw the crime scene and autopsy photos that day. But he told me they did not learn anything from that meeting they did not already know.
I'm hurt by what he might have went through, and I wasn't there to help him.
Farley and I sat on the dock David helped him build just months before he died. David's name engraved nearby. It's a permanent reminder of Farley's life with his younger brother.
I got albums of stuff, and I love to look through them, you know. I like to go back in time.
The dock and these pictures, reminders from more than 20 years in the past.
Bro had a friend that had a pet tiger. In some kind of way, she brought it to David's, and he was fascinated with it. He fed it the bottle.
While the mementos bring happy memories, they also remind him of what he's lost.
Investigators, they went through his trailer, his home, and dusted and for prints and whatever, you know, checked the phone, did everything they were supposed to do.
Farley says LPSO even had David's truck.
At the time, they had it for a while because both his left tires they wasn't just flat, they was destroyed.
Detectives searched inside the truck along with David's keys, wallet, and cell phone. Farley says nothing came of any of that evidence.
They wanted to try to find out where it happened at. They know where they found him at, but they don't think it happened there.
When investigators gave the truck back to he and David's mom, she offered it to Farley. He said no.
I don't think I could drive that truck, you know, not at the time anyway. And I guess she sold it, you know.
No matter what investigators searched and collected and tested, David's murder seemed unsolvable. To this day, Farley says he and his family don't really know very much.
To say we know what happened, we don't know what happened. We don't know exactly what happened. I heard different theories, you know, but which one's the truth? I don't know.
In part 3, we'll discuss those theories. What those closest to David believe happened that night nearly 22 years later. And we have more information. I just learned someone did in fact see David leaving his house that Monday night completely alone. And you'll hear from Kevin, David's stepson, who some initially believed that dark-colored vehicle spotted belonged to. More in the next episode of Cajun Case Files.